It's a Dungeons & Dragons podcast that'll really make you think. We're spicing up the rules, mashing up the homebrews, and stirring up the debates. Add a little touch of our own, and you have Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. With your host, the Pirate Captain.
It's not because I took on an entire ship by myself and walked away unscathed just off good looks alone.
Chef Bolgg.
I have in my rules for the original AG. Don't be a dick.
And Loke the Bard.
Lock the Bard bans all bards from his campaign. That wouldn't go over very well.
And without further ado, here are your hosts.
You know, we get into this intro every time, and then you're over there reading. That's not very bard-like of you.
No, that is Professor Loke now. Because I am a resident expert
Yeah,
in the bard world.
I don't think so. There's no such thing as an expert bard.
All bards are experts now.
I have a question. Can you eat expert?
You might be able to. I think we'll make an exception for this one.
Hooray!
Welcome, everybody. This is Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loke, the non-expert bard. We are your resident podcast for everything, homebrews, debates, creations, whatever you got out there. We are here for you. As always, we got to get through the obligatory things that we have to tell you about, like finding us on Facebook. All right, we are always we're pretty active on Facebook. You guys can find us there. Just search Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. We always do posting memes and things like that. It also lets you know when a new episode is published. Follow us on YouTube. I've actually started putting more stuff back on the YouTube, so if you want to listen to us there, or you are listening to us there, we appreciate that there. This episode is, you got to go through all this stuff. This whole list of stuff that I'm looking at right here, it never gets any shorter, but that's a good thing. This episode is brought to you by our friends at God Mode Gaming. If you need some entertainment on a Friday night, well, then you need to go over and search Twitch/God Mode, GAWD_mode, 8:30. Actually, it's 8 o'clock. 8:30 is usually when I'm able to tune in. They're going to give you some free D&D entertainment. If you actually stick around on the channel long enough, you get to build up some points. And when you build up those points, you get to impact how the game goes. So if you don't like the way a certain player is doing something, well, do it that way. All right. I think, does that cover everything? Am I missing anything? You guys got anything for me?
Nothing right yet. I know it's been a while, but I am working on more Bolgg Plays content. So that should be coming soon.
Yeah. Our YouTube actually, it's crazy because I was an idiot. It happens once in a while, all right, that I make a mistake. Yeah, that's true.
Just once in a while?
Once in a while that I make a mistake. And I re-uploaded the same video to YouTube. And the funny thing is when I re-uploaded it, the first video only had like 10 total plays. And here's to make matters worse. I changed the title of the first video and still re-uploaded it a second time with the new title as well. That's how dumb I was. And then the second one got like 205 views. It's just like, oh, snaps. What did I uncover? Is this the secret to YouTube? I think I broke the algorithm.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's within a day, and the other one had been up there for quite a while.
Yeah, like a few months. Yep. So yeah, go to YouTube, man. If you guys like, I get it, man. Sometimes trying to find us on a podcast is the hardest way to do it, but if you can go to YouTube and just listen to us there, we make it so there's not a whole lot of flashy things that are popping up there. We don't have like an animated hat or a gnome telling a story or, thousands of dollars of production equipment. So it's fun. So you just go there, you turn us on. It's a whole playlist. You can just start at one episode and it'll just play through until you catch up. So,
only one of us is a bard. So I don't know how many of us are getting turned on.
Yeah.
Well, all of you are getting turned on because you're in the presence of a bard. That's how it works.
That's actually, this is my anti-bard glass right here. The DM gave it to me just because of you. Just because of you. I hate bards. I do. But I think that 6th edition is going to change everything when it comes to bards. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I've talked in the past how I think bards are overpowered, and no one's been able to refute that. I've had a couple people message us on Facebook and stuff like that and say, hey, man, bards aren't too powerful. This class is overpowered. It's like, no, that class is overpowered and it's right, but bards can do what that class
A
does.
certain subtype of certain classes may be powerful. All bard classes are overpowered. Every single one of them.
Absolutely. And what we're going to get into today, if you guys looked at the title of today's episode, is we're actually getting more into 6th edition, not D&D 1, it's D&D 6th edition.
1 D&D.
6th edition.
It's a 1 D&D
6th edition.
playtest.
But
Until they release it, then they'll probably just switch it back to 6th edition.
yeah, it's just going to be a 6th. Like I said, you heard it here first. We're calling it 6th edition.
Yeah, a lot of feedback has been that 1 D&D is a dumb name.
It is. It just
It's like Xbox One was a dumb name. Though they kept that one.
But they're trying to promote the merger of D&D Beyond and their upcoming virtual tabletop platform with the system
that just sounds convoluted.
into one super system to end all systems.
Look,
one ring to rule them all.
I'm not saying that we have the greatest marketing team. It's the two of you and me. That's our marketing team. Yeah. But I think that we'd have been better for them. Whoever like D&D, like whoever Wizards marketing team that says, yeah, man, we should just call it D&D 1. You're an idiot. Like this has been working since the dawn of 2nd edition. That just call it.
When they were playtesting previous editions, though, they've done similar things where, like, what was the playtest for 5th edition, I believe they called Next.
Yeah.
I don't quote me on that. That may have been the 4th edition one. That was one of the previous play. They all blend together after a while. But yeah, so they've called them other things, and then when they finally published the first book, all of a sudden it became the new edition. I think they're trying to prevent the people from getting scared. I got to buy all new books again in another year, so I'm going to stop buying books this year. And, they want to keep making their money, so they want people to keep buying the 5th edition books.
People are still going to buy those books.
Yeah.
That's the ridiculous part about it. Like, nobody is not going to stop buying D&D books ever. Like, they're just, because they keep putting out stuff, and they're always, and that's one thing I hate about D&D is that you can't buy, and maybe with D&D Beyond, that'll be a thing, is that you can just buy the certain class stuff that you want. Because D&D will put it into, like, there's a couple of books that just have a lot of stuff, but it's just kind of like garbage if you ask me. But they have like one class in there that I really like. I'm trying to think of the book off the top of my head that I know.
D&D D&D Beyond did allow you. I haven't been on there recently, but they did used to allow you to do that, where you could buy the rights to all of the player's handbook, or you could buy the rights to the warrior class of the player's handbook, and then use that on your D&D Beyond character sheet. So it's entirely possible that they could piecemeal it like that.
But that's and that's what I would actually rather see. Like I want it to be, I want to go in and be able to just buy what I want to play.
Well, and
because I don't play a whole lot of like cleric or paladin. So why do I want to buy their stuff? I want to buy what benefits me: warlocks, rogues, fighters, rangers.
Well, and what you're going to see, I think,
dual-wielding barbarians.
You see it with their new the Dragonlance book that's coming out. They're giving a code that where if you buy the hard copy book, you will get the D&D Beyond code to get the content also on D&D Beyond, where you'll have it in both the hard copy and the digital copy.
I just don't. That's
when they
good.
start doing that, that's going to, like these third-party apps we use, like we've talked on here about the Spellbook Burn and the 5e character sheet, and I think next edition, every time you buy a 6th edition book, you get a 6th edition digital copy and D&D Beyond, where you can just use their character creator and their character sheet thing. I suspect that a lot of these third-party apps are going to have a hard time competing.
You're just going to have to change your wording ever so slightly. So instead of, Fireball doing 3d6, if it's worded in the book that way, 3d6 of damage of fire type.
Yeah.
And it's different enough.
Well, yeah, they'll still be able to produce them, but what I'm saying is if players are getting them automatically for free at D&D Beyond, well, with purchase of their book, why are they going out and buying a third-party app to do the same thing? And it's going to have to do a much better job of creating those character sheets or giving those monster stats than the D&D Beyond version, which, in the grand scheme of things, it's some small information. How much better can you give that same information?
I think it's just the ease of access for players. Like in 5th edition, that was their idea, but I still feel like 5th edition has gone out of their way. Like they forgot the idea of making it easy for players, and they just started pumping out a bunch of content, and now it's not easy for players to keep up. Like because there's a lot of watered down stuff. You're telling me that the school, what's the name of that school book?
Strixhaven.
You're telling me that was like a needed module, so somebody probably went out and spent $40 on it, looked through the content, and realized I could have gone to like D&D Wiki and got half this content for somebody's already done it for me.
Yeah.
And that's the power of homebrew. That's why we talk about homebrew here on this stuff. We haven't done it in a hot minute because there's so much good content that's coming out of this game, but that's one of those ones. I would honestly say, unless you're running, and this is my argument to homebrew, unless you're running a strict module campaign from one of the books and stuff like that, everything else is considered homebrew. What say ye, Bolgg? He's rubbing his temples.
No, the content that's being released through even third party, I would consider it as actual like content going out and being available to the people. Homebrew is a lot more intimate, a lot more special to each person.
Whoa. So you're saying somebody who, what my definition of homebrew is anything that is not created by wizards, that somebody else has created. So you're saying like technically what Loke does is not considered homebrew anymore?
Well, I think
it's absolutely homebrew.
Okay.
No, what I'm saying is that content from like Paizo or any of the other like publishing companies, that's not homebrew. That's still a source guide.
What about James from Tacitus?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that consider to be homebrew because he's creating those modules?
By Bolgg's definition, he's saying that no, that third-party content is not homebrew.
Homebrew would be something that is created and marketed at a very small scale. Those books, like I know Tacitus is a smaller scale company, but it is still putting out those kind of source books for that reason. Homebrew is stuff you like look up on D&D Wiki.
Yeah, and it has more to do with the time spent in testing and development as well. Like a third-party company who's a professional company who creates this content, and that is what they do professionally, is going to test the balance and make sure things are a little better than Joe off the street who, hey, wouldn't it be cool to play a Dragon Ball Z character?
So professional, like, so professional, I'll give you a little bit of that, but these guys are creating content that's not directly published by Wizards. This is their own stuff. This is the stuff that they did. They took time to think, because, hey, would this make something that somebody loves to play?
Right.
So I'm saying homebrew is anything that's not like major party publisher. I'm talking anybody that's, Pathfinder, Wizards, any of the major tabletop. Anything that is not directly labeled to them is considered homebrew by me. No. Like it's something that even if you're making money off of it, because you can make money off of anything right now. We could make money off this podcast. We don't, but that's because we do it for fun.
There was a kid at Necronomicon who made money off getting hit with a fish.
I love Colinth Kid, and he made a Facebook just for us. Have you seen him? He actually commented on our Facebook page.
Yep.
So Colicant Kid is the best.
Yeah, I wish the sound on that interview was better, because
that kid was awesome.
The future entrepreneur right there.
If the Colicant Kid wants to go out and make a whole module about getting whacked in the face with a fish, that's homebrew. Just because he's making money off of it doesn't mean it's not a homebrew.
But if a major publishing company that's not Wizards licenses the rights from Wizards to produce a module, I think that there's a step up, a different level there than homebrew from just random people who, hey, wouldn't this be fun? You also expect a higher quality in playtest. If you're running one of these third-party published modules, you expect your characters to pour in better than, let's try this. Just try this. Might work, might not. It's a roll of the dice.
I mean, think about it. And I just reached out to James and see if I can't get him in on the phone real quick. I don't think he has anybody plays test his stuff. I mean, I know he's got a general knowledge of what's going to work because he's played the game for so long, but I don't think that he's going to. I don't think that he goes out there and knows that everything's going to work right off the bat.
No, before they publish them, they do test their modules. They do play test them. When he was in studio and interviewed with him,
But I mean, homebrews, not some homebrews are play tested though. Does that take them out of being a homebrew labeled?
I play test my homebrews.
Okay, so
right.
now, so
but you
does
don't
that
know. The thing is, you don't know as a person using random homebrew whether it's been played tested or not.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with you're buying from one of these companies,
but if you're saying that now, like I don't know that any of these companies, I can go to D&D Beyond and buy somebody's homebrew, and it may or may not work because they may not have play tested it, and it's the same way with him. So as soon as it's play tested, does that mean that it's no longer homebrew?
No, the way I look at it is a tiered, like a tiered system, and once you hit a certain tier going down, then it's homebrew.
Okay, so explain the tier system.
So the tier system is like you've got Wizards at the top.
All right.
Official content coming from them, any partnerships they have, that's where that is. Then you've got the smaller studios, your Paizo's, your third-party tier. Then you've got the even smaller studios. These are the people who are making this content intending to sell it for use as a supplement, not as homebrew. Then you've got the tier lower than that, which is where you start getting that blurred line. These are people who put this stuff on D&D, DM's Guild, and Drive-Thru RPG, where they're intending to sell it, but it's, maybe not as well play-tested, maybe not as well thought out. It's there. Then you start getting down to like the Etsy level, I call it, where you're putting out a module every once in a while. That's homebrew.
Does that make us wish.com?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, we put stuff out there on that pay as you want, because I'm not charging them for it,
right?
Because it's homebrew.
But that's the thing. Like, I feel like what you're saying is as soon as it goes to a paywall, then it becomes almost.
Well, you expect more if you're paying for something,
right? But I still think it's still considered homebrew. Anything that's like done by not like the major publishers themselves. That's how my tier system goes. You've got
when you're buying beer. When you're buying beer, you've got the professionals like the Budweisers. You got the craft microbrewers, and then you got the guy who's brewing it in his basement. They're different.
You drank Bolgg's beer at the party last night, didn't you?
Maybe a little, but
that explains a lot.
Tiers.
That's why you're arguing with him.
There's a difference though, but you don't expect as much. It may be every bit as good.
I expect more out of out of these guys that are coming out with the like Voodoo Ranger. Voodoo Ranger is one of my favorite beers.
Yeah.
All right. I expect more out of Voodoo Ranger because it has to compete even harder than the publisher. Because the publisher, what's going to do? It's going to slap. The publisher's going to slap its name on it. It's going to call it. It's going to call it freaking Tasha's Cauldron, and everybody's like, "Oh, I've got to buy this module." But the homebrew guy, he's got to make sure that his stuff works, regardless. It's the homebrew.
That's not homebrew,
my point.
Though.
That wouldn't be homebrew. Homebrew would be Bolgg's basement wine.
Whereas Voodoo Ranger would
be the third party.
It's still homebrew though. It's somebody that somebody has something that somebody has created to work that way.
Did they make it in their house?
But they're
probably
they're creating it for sale.
I'm pretty sure James makes it in his house too.
Yeah,
I got you there.
Well, you're crossing the streams here.
I'm not crossing the streams here,
beer,
Egon.
It has to have a nice sterile environment in order for it to be done. I can almost guarantee Voodoo Ranger is they might have come up with a recipe in their house, but they're canning it and packaging it in a
Listen
brewery.
here, Egon, we're not crossing the streams. All I'm saying right now is anything that's not the major publisher is considered homebrew. Because these are people that are taking time out of their days to create it. I mean, we talked with
Tacitus.
Not Tacitus.
You blanking.
Yeah, I'm blanking. Last week.
God mode.
Yeah.
Jason.
I don't know why it took me so long to get that.
Yeah.
I'm so wrapped up in this conversation that I'm forgetting people's names because I almost forgot James and Tacitus too. I already said it twice. No, but listen, he is creating a whole new Pokemon-like D&D game, right? Is that not considered homebrew?
Right now, yes. However, if he goes and publishes that through a major publishing or even starts his own publishing company to sell the Pokemon rule manual.
See, if he sends it to Wizards, then yes.
No, what if he goes to like Cobalt Press or Paizo or one of these other major publishers?
If you stay as soon as it gets to the major publishers, I will.
But they're third parties because they're not Wizards.
I don't even think that, because I think anything that's hold on, that may be James.
Well, I don't see. For me, it has to have a level of intimacy for me for it to be considered homebrew. Once it gets out there and it's commercially available, I don't feel like that's homebrew.
I think there's a major difference between third party and homebrew, and the expectation of I don't expect if I download some random guy's Bard subclass that he made himself, there is no expectation of quality. It may be the greatest subclass ever, but I don't expect as much from that subclass as I would if I paid money to a professional company for that same, I expect more. It's an expectation. You expect everything from Wizards to be compatible with everything from Wizards. You expect the third-party stuff that you've brought in and paid money for to have a certain level of quality.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. Look, sorry. A little bit of on the fly go. I had to teach these guys how to radio for a second because the phones are set up differently here. Anyway. All right, James, here's the big question for you. We're talking about what is considered homebrew. Now, I consider what you do technically homebrew. I know you're a publisher and everything, but do you consider what you do homebrew or not? James? Hold on. James?
I don't
know if you can. I don't know if you can hear us.
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
I can hear him now. There we go.
Okay, sorry.
I was listening to somebody talking about using vinegar to clean something, clothes.
Yeah, that's sorry. That's the that was the other. That's man.
That's probably the main.
Sorry. All right. Hey, I'll do a little bit of editing and pretty this up later. But anyway, here's the question. All right.
Okay.
I am arguing on the behalf that what you do is considered homebrew. Yes, you do publish your work and everything like that, but yours is what's considered homebrew because it's not technically done by the major publisher like Wizards and whoever does Pathfinder and some of these other games. You yourself, what you do is create homebrew.
And what we're arguing, Bolgg and myself,
which is
that third-party publishers are they're a tier above what would be considered homebrew. They may not be the Wizards' primary tier, but as a third-party publisher, there's more expected from you, and you're expected to have a better quality.
I'm not saying that there's nothing better that you don't expect good quality from James. You guys are trying to put me out like that.
No. I know what they're saying, I know what you're saying. I got you.
So answer the question right now. We have publisher from Tacitus Publishing, James, on with us right now. He is going to let you know whether you sitting in your basement tonight creating something while listening to your favorite D&D podcast are making homebrew or not.
Well, the question is, are you making it for yourself and your local group, or are you making it for the masses? And I think that there might be that's when the gray areas become a little bit finer. So if you have, third-party publishers, you have Cobalt Press, Troll Lord Games, any of the guys who do any type of product, whether it's for one system or another, to say homebrew, I couldn't say that, because then you're trying to say that everything that comes out, including like the large Kickstarter programs that hit thousands and thousands of dollars, are they buying into something they consider homebrew?
Well, I mean...
And then are you saying homebrew is it just because is the line drawn because only Wizards of the Coast can produce actual content versus everybody else is considered homebrew?
So what I'm saying is Wizards publishes something and people are going to buy it regardless. And it gets a little bit of what you're saying too. And I don't want to put a price label on just because you We'll take our YouTube video. One of our YouTube videos didn't get a lot of views, and all of a sudden one does. Does that make that one an official YouTube video? No, it doesn't. They're all the YouTube videos. And what I'm saying is, with what Wizards does is like that's their whole goal in life is to create content built around D&D. All right, and granted, that's kind of what you do, and it kind of makes, I guess, the argument for them is that when you kind of create, this is your day in day out stuff, but that's like Wizards thing, right? When they sit down, when somebody goes to work today or tomorrow, whenever, they're going to be sitting down and making how to make the bard better, how to make the ranger worse, how to do this, how to do that. When you guys go in there, you're adding subclasses, you're adding modules, you're doing all this, you're creating something from new without the benefit of having Wizards behind you. All right? There's room to fail at Wizards, right? Can we all agree that if you make a bad module,
okay.
But
let me pose something back to you then. You have Unearthed Arcana, which is technically not considered actual finished and refined product. Would that be considered homebrew then? And that does come from Wizards of the Coast.
Because like I said, theirs is room to fail. Yours doesn't have room to fail. Now, the argument that these guys made earlier, which I think comes in, is, is it been play tested? Because a lot of homebrew isn't play tested. Sometimes you are the play test for a homebrew versus you and your modules. You have play tested a lot of your modules. There's some that you are currently working on right now, but I still sit there and say that is still considered homebrew. Anything that's not the major publishers of the game that you are playing, if you are adding content to it that is not directly with the name of Wizards on it, that is yours, is considered homebrew.
Yeah, and like I said, we've been saying this whole time that there's another tier in between homebrew and first run publisher. That I'm saying the third party tier is where.
And that's where I also sit. I believe that there is a middle ground, that it does depend on it being vetted. It does depend on the source, the playtesting. Homebrew usually is somebody making something up and then throwing it out there, potentially, maybe not even, because if you go on the Reddits and all that.
I try to stay away from Reddit.
Right, but and it's a very good thought not to, because a lot of it is very loose cannon, So yes, you could stamp everything homebrew outside the main books, but yet you does that mean you're taking away the quality by saying it's homebrew in people's eyes?
I don't think just because it's labeled homebrew that it's less quality. There have actually been a lot of homebrew fixes to certain classes that make them better classes. I've seen a few homebrews of the Ranger that make the Beastmaster Ranger like a lot better. That they give the pet the abilities that they need to kind of like pair up,
actually be effective.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I think when you put I think there is a stigma behind homebrew when you say that a lot of people are like, oh, this is probably some kind of like wonky thing that nobody's actually worked out. But I don't think that's true at all. I think there's a lot of play tested homebrew.
And sometimes even the Unearthed Arcana stuff can almost feel like it's homebrew.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like it works well.
So
it's a miss.
Yeah, I was arguing on the fact that I think that what you do is, yes, considered homebrew. I think that because it's good quality work. I'm not going to deny that. I've seen and ran and played your modules, and I'm not just marking out to you just because you're a friend of the show. But we just needed to have the argument because your name came up, and I was like, man, I wonder if we can get him on real quick. So I appreciate you hanging out with us for a few minutes.
Yeah, no problem. I think, plus maybe I don't know if there does exist, but maybe there should be that middle ground term, that maybe it's not, from the source itself, and yet it's not something that's just immediately thought of or just kind of it beginning its infancy on whether it's good or not material.
Yeah, I guess that would help out because I don't think third party does it because I think third party just makes it seem like you're playing some like great value brand of D&D or something.
But see, with third party, you're the company that's producing it, whether it's Tacitus, whether it's Cobalt Press, whether it's some other one out there, they're staking their reputation behind everything they put out. They're an existing corporation business.
Yeah, they can fail. They have room to fail.
Right.
We don't.
But when you get to the homebrew, it's an individual that Joe Schmo put this pyromancer class together.
He thinks your name is Joe.
But yeah, to put a pyromancer class together, if you don't know the guy, you don't know quality, you don't know what he's done. There's no reputation there. It's just random person off the street put this package together.
Couldn't you argue the other extreme too? That as soon as you put out a piece of content and somebody pays for it, are you now a content creator?
Yes, actually, your content
make you published and paid.
Let me find out that our old Bolgg is published. I think, look, you're a content creator. Everybody is technically a content creator. The moment you post something on Facebook, that is producing content. Whether it's, pray for my family, or if you're making G.I. Joe wiener jokes like I did earlier this morning, that's the truth about it. So, like I said, you're a content creator in one way. But, hey, James, I appreciate you giving us a call in on short notice, man. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thanks, man.
For you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So
we can all agree that we need a third name. A third.
We can
third name.
We can also agree 75%, 3 votes to 1.
Look, I'm
third
the
party is
I'm
not
the captain of the ship, so that means my vote counts as 4. So okay. I'll give a little bit of leeway of like the homebrew. I guess is a terrible name to do. Like it does. I guess it just gives you 2 names, right? Yeah. You got wizards, and then you got homebrew. So we do need a third name, but I don't want to call it third party because, like I said, that just makes it seem like
professionally published content.
The triple Ps. I don't know. It's got to be something catchy. Like homebrew is kind of catchy. When you think of homebrew, it's like you understand what is a homebrew.
Well, how about instead of professionally published, just published content? Just it's published content.
Yeah, it's a little too PC if you ask me.
Yeah.
What? That
Coming
was right
from PC, that's too PC.
And
I
a
know,
lot,
right?
a lot
Yeah,
of
there's too many
homebrews are
PC.
published on D&D Beyond or DM's Guild, or a lot of people do publish their homebrews.
And it's good. Like I said, just because you're homebrew doesn't mean you're bad. There are bad homebrews, but like James said, there's bad unearthed arcana.
Yep.
Like
there's bad content that's published content. The original Ranger in the original Player's Handbook had some problems.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I just think there's got to be a better name. Like I think we can all agree that there should be a better name for like the middle area between homebrew and published stuff. Right?
You know what? Listeners, if you come up with something, post it to our Facebook page, email it to us.
BolgandPC@gmail.com. Got it right that time, fools.
Yeah.
I'm not dog tired doing this today. But yeah, I think that's it. I think you're right. I think that there's got to be a third party name of some sort of, because it doesn't do. I can see where a lot of people are saying, hey, it doesn't do justice to some of these creators that are putting out good stuff versus Wizards who puts out garbage stuff and they get to be the prime dogs. Which, yeah. Speaking of stuff that they are putting out, and I know we teased this at the beginning of the episode. Now we can finally get into it. The experts.
Yes,
the experts are out. D&D 6th edition.
The Unearthed Arcana for expert classes. It's been out for a little while. The survey's open.
When you
or maybe closed by the time this airs.
When you said experts, you know what my first thought was? We were getting prestige classes back.
Yeah.
And they got me. They got me.
Pulled a sneaky on you.
Yeah, they did, man. Because I thought I like that about the early D&D is that you had the prestige classes, the classes that were so good at what they did, they had to come up with another class to tackle on top of you. This is essentially what a prestige class was. Yeah. Anybody disagree with that one? Are you gonna call? Do I have to call James back? Do I have to call somebody else out?
It was there were classes that were so good, so awesome, you couldn't start at level 1.
Right. All right. Mm-hmm. So when you said that they were bringing back, when you said, oh, they got the expert classes, I was like, oh man, are we gonna see like the Archfey Ranger or something? No. You know what the expert class is right now? The expert class is actually a class group. So they actually now are grouping all of the classes in, which is kind of cool. Like, I like that because when you say these names, you'll think, oh, yeah, that makes sense. There's one that I think doesn't really kind of like work if you ask me, that it could kind of like work in 2 groups, and we'll get to that one in here. So you have the experts, mages, priests, and warriors. All right, those are your 4 groups. All right, experts include bard, ranger, and rogue. Mages do sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. Warriors are barbarian, fighter, monk, and priest, cleric, paladin, and druid.
And the artificer is
No, that's not a class. All right, as of right now, in D&D 6th edition, the artificer is not a class.
That is, they have a note there saying that which makes it sound like it will not be in the player's handbook, which therefore, if it's not in the player's handbook, it's not a core class.
Bingo. All right.
I mean, okay.
That is
All right, that's 5 to 1.
They put the note there.
they
so
put the note there as an example of how groups will work with expansion information. So the artificer may still be an expansion class. If you go to Eberron, you will be able to use the expansion class of the artificer, and it would in that case be grouped under the heading of the expert and follow the rules of an expert. Yeah. But it is not a core class if it's not in the player's handbook.
We'll give a link down in the description to the podcast and on Facebook with what we're looking at. So if you guys don't know where to find it, it will have it for you. But I'm going to tell you before we get into like the experts that they released and the changes that they made to Bard, which I'm ecstatic about. Druids. I don't think druids are really. I don't really want to call them priests. I think that they either have to come up with a better name for that group, or I think I don't know, because priests.
See, it depends what they're going to do with them. Because in the old editions, the druids and the paladins were very much priests.
Right. Yes, those two. But
they were in the newer editions. There's much less tie to for example, paladins don't have a divine tie at all in 5th edition.
Right.
Druids being nature based. Druids used to be a specialty class of a cleric.
Right.
So it makes sense that they would fall under the same.
I guess
big group.
when you put it that way, but I guess it goes back to the argument we had a few episodes back in the D&D 6th edition podcast or episode where we were talking about the difference between what I thought was like divine and primal magic.
Right. Yeah, and that's where these groupings get a little. I'm like, we don't have. I mean,
all right.
So the ranger and the druid are going to be using the primal spell lists, but they're in different groups, so those they're not a 1-to-1 correlation with the groups in which spell lists. So yeah, I get that.
That's and like I said, that's like if that's what really makes them priests, then like you're saying, then you should see the ranger and.
Well, I think it comes down to worship. I mean, clerics worship a god.
We're not getting into the tree hugging hippie comments, are we again?
Druids worship nature.
But I guess it goes back to, like I said, what we had to define like primal and divine magic, and I think that's where it really kind of broke down to. Yeah. So this one, here's what makes an expert class an expert class. It's polymaths who have the expertise feature and the elements of other classes. So they're actually, I guess that'll actually ties into the ranger thing of why rangers can, they have something of everybody.
Yeah, right? The current version of the ranger and the ranger they put in this book would fall under this definition.
All right.
I would argue the original Rangers back in early editions were a fighter subclass.
I mean, honestly
they've become much more roguey in recent years. So I guess it kind of makes sense that
we can do everything, but we're not, which is kind of unfair to the rogue because I think the rogue can do a lot of its own things, but it's like we can do a little bit of what everybody else does, just not as good as they can.
Yeah.
And we have our own little thing.
And that's going to be the trend for all 3 of these experts is they can do what everybody else can, just not as well as any of them for, they're all kind of jack of all trade characters in this case. They just focus a little differently.
Yeah.
Which makes things like, the rogue scout, which was a better ranger than a ranger.
Yeah.
Is that subclass really going to be valid anymore? Would it? Because the Ranger Scout might be a better.
Maybe we'll actually see something like
and things like the Sword Bard, which was
a better fighter than the fighter.
Yeah, better fighter than the fighter could have an ungodly AC.
We're gonna get into the nerfs to bards and why I like that. So you just cool down on hating on the bards. Save that for me. Mages, here's what makes you a mage. Adepts of arcane magic focusing on utility and destruction, which is not fair. Not all warlocks want the destruction, just our patrons want the destruction of the world.
Well, it's also getting into the old the black mage style,
which I like.
Destruction, where you're all magic that is arcane is. You're not going to get healing spells on the arcane spell list.
I like that, though. Yeah. Like the fact, there should be a special wizard class that focuses on healing, but there shouldn't be a wizard that's his. I'm going to cast healing word. Like you never saw Gandalf doing that, and that's when I think of wizards and stuff like that. That him and Sauron, those are wizards. That's what the wizard is based off of. And you never really saw him doing healing word. I saw a funny video where somebody argued that Gandalf wasn't actually a wizard; he was a ranger. It was actually a funny video. I couldn't tell you how to find it. I stumbled across it.
Well, Gandalf wasn't a person; he was a divine being, so it's kind of cheating.
Yeah, but
Gandalf was a god.
Yeah,
not a wizard at all.
I love Tolkien's lore. It's so crazy. All right, so priests.
So are all the wizards.
Yeah,
which cheats.
Stewards of divine. Here's what makes you a priest. Stewards of divine or primal magic, focus on healing, utility, and defense. I like that they're giving each of these they're taking away. It was fun to play a forge cleric, which is one of my favorite clerics. But it's nice that they're kind of taking away from those and making them more. They're giving bonus class buff classes. You're finding more abjuration wizards now than you would find anywhere else, which is nice. It's nice to see that we're getting away from a full combat style or everything's just straight damage. It's what do we bring to the group? So I like that about the priest class. We're focused on healing, utility, and defense.
Yeah, they're the white mages of the
red mages, red or green mages because they buff and can do something on their own. White mages,
healing spells, Kurga, raise the dead.
Yeah,
white mages. Priests. Yeah.
But you can go all white, or you can go, like I said, you can go red or green mage. Because I could see the druids still having some kind of attack spells, and you can shapeshift.
And then the paladins just smite.
And see, I would put red and greens into experts. So
yeah,
because they're crossing over the lines.
Yep.
Here's one that also I kind of was thinking is warriors are your barbarian, fighter, monk. I hope that when they bring out the warriors that they kind of buff endgame monk.
Yeah.
Because endgame monk sucks. But it's masters of combat who can deal and endure many wounds. I've never seen a monk endure more than 2 actual direct hits.
And what I'm hoping is that by putting the monk into the warrior grouping, that it puts it into a warrior hit dice level.
Yeah, maybe
where you're getting that D10 or D12,
maybe
instead of the D8.
Make them less like rogues, because if you look at monk and rogue, they play a lot alike.
Yeah,
and make them more like a cross between the monk and the the fighter and the rogue.
Yeah, and the stuff we've seen to unarmed combat already, and the stuff that the feats that have been related to unarmed combat that we've seen already, it sounds like they will be helping the monk. But that one hasn't come out yet, so we're still speculating there.
Speculation. But best kind of relations.
My speculation is that the monks will be better than they were. Whether it's enough better is another.
Yeah. Anything. I guess I like monks. I like playing them. I think there's a certain way you got to play them.
Well, that's the thing with monks. You can't play monks the way they're designed. You have to take advantage of the features they've been given, and you combine a monk with sharpshooter, and do a ranged attack monk rather than a hand-to-hand monk. Those kind of power builds to cheat the system is not what the monk's designed to do, but it makes the monk a viable class. Whereas if you try to do a hand-to-hand combat monk the way the monk's designed to be, it's going to suck.
Yeah. I would like to see him get away from, like you're saying, be more hand-to-hand sometimes. Yeah. Your hand-to-hand options should be vastly superior. But I guess it's like we were talking about while we were at lunch earlier today was, we'd like to see the changes that they're making to dual wielding. Maybe they can do that same kind of change to monks, where it's a free action after an attack to make a dual wield, because you're making hands. So that way when you do flurry of blows, you're technically getting 4 hits. And I think if you did the 4 hits, let's say, because you get your bonus action for flurry of blows, the attack again, right? So, all right, so that's 4 attacks with a D4, all right? You're not going to do a whole lot of damage, but you're going to do enough.
Well, eventually that's 4 attacks with the D8, D10, high level mode.
Yeah, but you're fighting things at a higher level, so that kind of helps that you make that
more attacks.
Yeah, you make that change right there, and I think that it actually make monks more viable current edition.
If this light weapon property change, which is the thing we were talking about, it's in this.
Yeah, it's in this
module here that changes to the dual wielding. If that applies to unarmed combat, it's at least going to give the monk one extra attack using flurry of blows above and beyond what it got historically.
Yeah,
and that's a good improvement.
I'm one of the people who say that the monk, the way of the open hand, should just be the base monk. Every monk should have that ability.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Then you have your subclasses.
Yeah, kind of give them like kind of how you have weapon style. What is it? Weapon styles with like the ranger and the fighter, the fighting styles.
Yep.
So you have fighting styles, and then you would build off your fighting style. Do you want to improve? Do you want to improve your open hand technique? Do you want to be a halberd?
Something else when we get into this, fighting styles are now in this module a feat. And the feats have a prerequisite of the group, and one of those groups is the warrior group. So if the monk is in the warrior group, it now qualifies to take the feats, dual wield or unarmored.
Which is what makes this actually, honestly, a nice change, is that these groups, because now things are more clearly defined as a mage. Because right now in 5th edition, you can make the argument that bards are considered mages. It's a stupid argument, but it's still it's an argument.
In 5th edition, you could absolutely play a bard as just a straight mage.
Right. Yeah. And I don't, and that's dumb because
that's what lore bards are basically built to do.
Okay, look,
in 5th edition.
5th edition. All right, they're dumb. It's stupid. The fact that you can do that is dumb. All right, that makes your wizards, your warlocks, and your sorcerers almost obsolete. And so now it's nice that we're seeing that they're coming back, and they're going to be able to come back, because the changes that they're making to bard are really nice. All right, I've read through a couple of it. I haven't read through the whole thing. Our D&D 6th edition expert is actually Loke the Bard. Fair enough, but
I'm looking at this chart that they have for the bard class, and I'm seeing feat. I'm not seeing ASI.
Yes, that is another change
that I think is way better.
Well, no, the ASI feat, there is a ability score improvement feat that is a repeatable feat.
Yep.
So, but what it's doing is it's making feats are no longer an option. The ASI functions the same way. You can still take the feat and improve any stat by 2. Same as you always could before.
Or 1 and 1.
That's a good question.
But it's still
I like it. I like it. I'm telling you, it makes feats great.
Yeah, feats in this edition will be a standard feature, and they're part of your background. They're part of that came out in the first play test, was that they are part of your background. They will be part of your they are not an optional rule anymore. They are a standard rule that applies to all D&D games.
And that's great. That's awesome. Like, because right now, when you think of feats in D&D 5th edition, you're sitting there thinking, oh, this is like something that's not really hit our like, some of them are good. Some of them are overpowered. We have a homebrew rule in your campaign where you cannot use the Great Weapon Master or the Sharpshooter. It's a bonus action. It's a bonus action now, because you're going to annihilate targets, and it just makes encounters no longer fun. So I think making things like a feat.
Yes, I scrolled through and found the ability score improvement one. Yes, you can do 1 and 1.
Okay, cool. So you can still do 1 and 1, because not all the time do you want it to increase everything. So I think that with this feat thing going in, moving forward with having feats as it'll be able to better define your class. Now these feats are going to have to be good. We were talking about the cleave feat in this, and how the
new Great Weapon Master now includes it. They've taken away the plus, or the -5 to hit, +10 to damage, and they've changed it around where it's got the cleave function, where if you reduce the target to 0, you can take an additional attack as a bonus action.
Well, that's
with the same weapon,
right.
So you're cutting through one.
So I like cleave the way that Pathfinder does it, because as long as you make a successful hit, you can continue to attack. All right, you cannot attack in the same turn. You cannot use this feat to attack the same character more than once. So I can't attack you and attack him and then go back to you as long as I made. And you just go until you miss. All right, that's what I think of as a great cleave.
Something else that's changed with Great Weapon Master, you must be a 4th level before you can take this feat.
Yeah, you got to actually have a little bit of strength.
Yeah,
so
and
you're not just going to be a chump.
Now they have turned it into a half feat. They're giving you a +1 to any stat if you take this feat, which because they are nerfing it a little bit by taking away that +10, and then they give you if you hit with an attack, you get to add an additional your proficiency modifier to damage to every attack with a heavy weapon. And then they've made it apply to all weapons with the heavy.
Yeah. And you were telling me that they've redefined what a lot of weapons are to help kind of like, because you got halberds and stuff like that are not, they're not, how do you call it? Some of them aren't listed as heavy, and so you don't get the benefit off of it, which is kind of unfair to halberds. Halberds are a two-handed weapon that you have to kind of use like that. I like the fact that they're coming back, because if you look at a feat in D&D, you may ask yourself why you take it. You're really just taking it for kind of class flavor, which is what I liked about the backgrounds in 5e. It's still one of my favorite parts that they've added in 5e was the backgrounds. They kind of give you a little bit more flavor. Some of them were better than others. Obviously, you could start off with like 10 gold as a noble and other stuff, and some of them criminal, and some of them were lackluster. But that was one thing that I liked. And now...
And that was something in the first one of these Unearthed Arcanas. They fixed that a lot, too, where every background gets different material, different money amounts, but they are total to the same benefit. Like all of your equipment comes out to the same cost. All of your... everybody gets a feat. So because some backgrounds, you were taking them to get the proficiency that you wanted or whatever, and you never used I get to sail on a ship for free if that event ever comes up.
Yeah, how often did that ever happen? You could have a DM that's like landlocked.
Right. So now instead of that random feature, you are actually getting a 1st level feat.
Yeah.
So you're starting with a feat from level 1. Everybody is, and humans start with 2 feats.
Well,
humans are always 2-footed.
Yeah, I would say humans have always had 2 feet.
Yeah. So, yeah. Now, but by eliminating where you can't take Great Weapon Master or Sharpshooter as one of those 2 feats, you've got to take the ones that are leveled for that tier. And none of those 1st level feats give you an additional stat. None of them are the half feats.
Yeah.
Can you get dark vision?
Yeah.
You're not getting dark vision.
You're not. Yeah.
Nobody's getting Eldritch Evocation.
That Eldritch Evocation is a Tasha's feat, which would probably be a 4th level feat, because if it does give the rule of thumb is if it does give a ability modifier, it's a 4th level feat or above.
Yeah.
So
nobody's getting magical dark vision.
Until they reproduce Tasha's under the new rules. That is, you will have to at least be 4th level before you could take that feat.
Nobody's getting magical dark vision. All right, it's not a thing. Nobody's doing it. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
except for shadow monks and shadow sorcerers and everybody else that really wants it.
Yeah, you know what? It goes back. We already need 6th edition out, so we can like water down some of these classes, like everything that's like just way out there, like the bard. My biggest hate of bards. It's not because bards are bad. Bards are a fun class. I've played plenty of bards, and I think it's a great class, but I hate the class at the same time because it just does everything that everybody else does better, and that's not fair to the other classes that, what makes them unique and special is being wiped away by some dude that just wants to go around fornicating everything that moves.
Yeah, and that is one thing I like with the new version of the bard that they've got in here is... We are in some ways it's nerfed in some aspects because you are now going to be limited.
Yeah, the one of the things that I think needed to be nerfed on the bard from the beginning was that we didn't need to prepare spells for bards.
Right.
Now you have to, and that makes sense. Bards might they play from memory, so of course if they don't have their songs like memorized, ready to go, they're not going to be able to cast that spell.
Right.
Yeah,
That's it.
and
That's your
But
big.
but they also made it like balance that out a little bit by giving them the lore bard's main feature as a bard feature in general, which is the magical secrets and further magical secrets.
Here's my argument about prepared spells, is that there needs to be a way that you show your prepared spells. Because you think about it, how many times wizards always, I mean, most of the time how many of y'all just use the same spells as a wizard every time you play the wizard? Me?
I don't.
All the goddamn time. I
I
know
have
what
a different prepared list.
I build my wizard the way I want him to play. I know his style. I know what he's gonna do. If you ask most people, they don't really prepare other spells.
Yeah.
They usually use that.
The combat spells, of course, are the ones that are prepared, and then the ones that can be ritual are left unprepared so that you use them outside of combat with a 10-minute cast time instead.
Yeah, see, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So prepared spells is not enough of a reason to... It wasn't enough of a nerf, I honestly think, for bards this season. But going into 6th edition, I think that we're going to see a lot more if you can't use as many spells from other lists.
But
you have to use your list.
Yeah, well, it balances them down to where they're not better than the other spellcasters in the arcane list, though. Because that was the thing with they were the only arcane casters who didn't need to prepare their spells and didn't have it narrowed down. So, if I needed a knock spell because we came across a locked door that the thief couldn't get through, the bard didn't have to have it prepared. He just had to have the ability to cast it, and he could cast it.
Yeah, but how many people were really checking to make sure that their wizard had that spell prepared? Like, as a DM, ask yourself, how often are you going, hey, can I see your prepared spell list? It kind of gives you as a DM a little bit of an unfair advantage over the player, but are you really checking it to call the players? Because I'm going to tell you, I know plenty of players that would use and abuse this system.
Yeah, you're always going to have those players, though, just like the ones that cheat with their encumbrance, or they cheat with cheaters are going to cheat.
Right.
That's going to happen.
That's all I'm saying is the prepared spell list, I don't think was enough of a
right.
list.
Well, that's just the start, though, because they've also limited, because they put bards into the arcane spell. They no longer have a separate spell list like they did in the 5th edition. There's the arcane spell list and only the arcane spell list. But what they've done is they've limited the bards without their magical secrets to just divination, enchantment, illusion, or transmutation spells, which means they are not casting fireball. They are not casting,
They're back to being utility.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah, they're not attacking, and they're not.
And here's something you told me that I honestly like the best about what bards are actually getting ready to become. And it's because you're right. You're going back to utility. We're getting rid of all this damage that they can do, this insane amount at a moment's notice. I'm just going to loot out a fireball. No, we're actually going to get something that I think would have been a better change to bards in 5th edition is the fact that they're Song of Restoration.
Yeah.
It's a song. It's no longer the Song of Rest. So, you get a benefit to your rest. Now you're actually getting a proficiency to your healing spells, which I think is way better and should have been done in the second or in this edition now anyway, because nobody was really taking the benefit of the Song of Rest.
Yeah, and you get healing word at 2nd level, which again, you're not as good as the cleric because the cleric's getting it at 1st level.
Right.
But you're getting it at 2nd level, so you are, again, the jack of all trades, you can do it, but not as good, which is the catch. Whereas before, the bard was doing it and doing it better.
Exactly. But here's the cool thing too, and it doesn't completely take it away from you as a bard. It always counts as your prepared spell.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about not having it. So you just have to make sure you have a spell slot for it. And I think that I think that's what this class needed. It just needed to be hit with the nerf hammer.
Yeah, and they've done some things to help it as well to make up for what it's taking away.
Yeah, I wouldn't even consider it the nerf hammer. They just took it from
They hit
arms wide open to back to being.
They hit it with a nerf cannonball.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's no more of the different spell lists. There's not multiple versions.
Nobody gets magical secrets until 11th level now.
Oh no, it was 6th level and
The 6th and 11th.
6th and 11th.
Yeah.
But
So they do get
Lorbard-
it twice.
No, not
anymore.
not anymore.
They get it twice at 11th and
It's 6th and 11th. No.
Not in
no
6th edition. We're talking
they
6th
get
edition.
Their what you call it? Their
They get it 11th as natural. All bards get it as
their
11th.
subclass feature. It is no longer a
15th.
Yeah,
11th and 15th.
11th and 15th now. It's no longer 6th and 11th.
Yeah. So it's
I like it because it
they
chooses
do get
a
it, but
spell, not multiple spells, a spell. Whenever you prepare your bard spells to the spells you prepare, you choose to list in any school of magic. Now, I think you need. I think that when you choose these magical secrets, I think when you choose this, you get one, and that's it. There's no changing it.
No, there's two.
Right.
You get two off of. The thing is, you can
change it.
In the old one, you weren't supposed to be able to change it. Now you can.
No, and my argument to this now would be you can't change it. This is yours. That is your song. It's kind of like you just made a new song that's yours, copyright protection. All right, so nobody can kind of get it to you. So
yeah, the way this one it reads right now is you choose the list that your spell comes from, and then you can pick two things off of that list. So if right now at 11th level you want to take 2 3rd level spells. But then when you level up later, you choose one of those 3rd level spells and maybe a 5th level spell. You're still only getting 2 spells from that list, but you can change them when you're doing your preparations.
Yeah. So, and they can be any magic type. So the bard is not as combat focused as it could be as a mage.
And they've changed
But
the
you still
spells
can
known
get it.
as well.
right.
Yeah.
Where the spells known is equal to this number of spells you can prepare.
Yeah, I think I honestly think that it's
So you don't know
it's a nerf in the
everything.
it's a nerf in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think there's I like it though because we were talking about how they got rid of the technically the ASI, but there's an ASI feat. But if you look, that they were so lazy when you actually get like look at 16th level, you gain the ability score improvement feat. Oh, it says it right there. Maybe I wasn't reading.
Yeah.
I really can't read.
But they took away the 6th level magical secrets from the lore bard, because the one they subclass they have the example of in here is the lore bard,
Yeah.
and they've taken that away from them. So the lore bard now has been nerfed into a more standard bard because it's no longer the best, overwhelmingly choice bard spellcaster.
They replaced it with cunning inspiration, which is basically granting advantage to your bardic inspiration.
Right, but actually, inspiration's changed as well because it is now a reaction to a failed roll.
Which is the way we actually play it a lot.
No,
Think about it because
you hand the dice out to the person and say, "I'm giving Bolgg inspiration." You hand Bolgg the inspiration die, and he chooses when to use it.
Okay, but
that's not how this will work any longer. Bolgg rolls a failed attack roll, and I say, "Oh, I'm inspiring Bolgg. Add a D8 to that roll, and maybe that failed die becomes a hit instead."
Well, that's cool. That's awesome.
It puts the control into the bard instead of the person being given the inspiration.
Yeah.
Because how often do you give somebody inspiration and it sits there
unused
until it expires?
Because you as a bard might have a better understanding of where to use that inspiration in the moment versus the person who has the inspiration die. They'll hold on to it saying, "Oh, I need to use this now. I don't need to use this now. I need to use it later." So when they fail a roll and it actually does something bad, well,
I like that though.
Yeah. Now the bard can go, "Oh no, this is going to be bad. Here's inspiration."
I want to see them use it the way we use it. And we talked about this in the past where we use bardic inspiration to take away crits from the DM.
The cutting words.
The cutting words. Like we use it to the hit will still hit. It succeeds, but it's no longer a crit hit. So I think that's one of the better ways to do it. I'd like to see that added in here. I think that would be a really good use of a bardic inspiration die.
Yeah,
all in all,
you can also now use your bardic inspiration die to heal.
Yeah, but no, there's a bard that has that. There's a bard that has that feature already.
No. This as the default bard.
Yeah.
In this 6th edition, the option for that inspiration, you can use that inspiration die immediately after a creature within 60 feet of you can see or hear takes damage. You can use a reaction to roll your bardic's inspiration and restore the number of hit points equal to the number on the die rolled.
All right, so it keeps you from having to use a spell slot, so
Right.
you're using your bardic inspiration die.
And and it's also, again, it's the reaction. So Bolgg gets hit. Bolgg's about to drop. 1d8, boom, Bolgg's back up and still in the fight.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well, that was I mean, what they're doing with the bard is they're focusing it in. Bards were so broad and could do whatever they wanted to do. Now they're going, hey, bards need to be for utility. They need to be there to help out in every way they can, but not every way that's available.
Yeah, we definitely needed to cut
they've definitely narrowed them back into a support class.
That's good. That's what they
Yeah.
always should have been. Like, I
love 5th edition bards, but I know they need to be nerfed.
When 5th edition came out, somebody's favorite class was the bard, and they're like, we're going to make it do everything. And they just went ham, and it took away from what made other classes. So we're probably going to end up having to rename this podcast to something like I Hate Bards or something. I think we've said that before, but it's outstandingly annoying how good those classes are at doing anything that they want to do.
Yeah.
That you never get the ability just to kind of feel good. Like if you go out there as a mage and you hit like that perfect fireball that just wipes out an entire pack of something, and you feel good, and then the bard comes in and goes, "Oh, now watch this," strums his lute, tells a story, dances his dance, and all of a sudden he does the same thing, and it's just like, why was I even here, bro? Like it takes away from the players, and that one's kind of like on you as a DM to kind of like monitor and like hit your player with a Nerf bat and go, no. But the class does what the class does, and it's not the player's fault.
And you can still do that in this edition, but it's not as like they can't just sit there and spam the combat spells.
Yeah, this kind of has me excited. Some of these changes to just, and really we've only talked about the bard. There was 3 classes in this update, the expert classes, which are your range, your rogue, your range, your rogue. Yeah, your range, your rogue, your ranger, and your
You almost did it again.
I did it. Your range, your rogue, and your bard. It makes me excited to see these range the rogue.
Yeah, now with the ranger, they have beefed them up a little bit. The interesting thing that they've done with the ranger, though, is they have introduced a new concept that was not in 5e, which is downcasting.
Yeah.
You could always upcast spells before, but the rangers will get an ability to cast the 3rd level spell Barrage, but they can downcast that 3rd level spell at 2nd or 1st level, taking a d8 from the damage for each level down.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and the spell at 3rd level does 3d8 to each target in the cone. So if you cast it at 2nd level, it's 2d8. If you cast it at 1st level, it's 1d8. But it makes sense.
I think that they should have just made that an ability, though. Like those
That's
are
just
those
spell casting.
Yeah, why is it a spell? It seems more like an ability. Oh, let me fire off like a notch of arrows real quick into a cone in front of me. Like that just seems more like an ability than it ever did a feat. But I guess if you do it as an ability, you're only going to get it like your proficiency bonus, and that's usually kind of
it's something.
And that's the thing with the Rangers, though. The Rangers' old school abilities have all become like Hunter's Mark, all those kind of things, all became spells, and now they're kind of leading them back towards.
Well, maybe that's what made Rangers kind of like just too ungodly stupid, was the fact that we lost a lot of their abilities. And they were spells now. So now it cost you to use the things that made your class unique. And that now, guess what? The bard's over there doing. And you're like, frack, dude, what the hell? So maybe now that they're coming back as feats, it'll be worth it. Yeah,
and then Hunter's Mark, they get automatically. Doesn't cost them anything to their. It doesn't count as their spells known. They automatically always know it. So they can cast it. And then they no longer have to concentrate on Hunter's Mark.
I think that's nice. I like the favorite enemies back, the spell casting. They get the fighting style, the ranger subclasses when they use the hunter, which is nice. Mm-hmm. They're looking more like fighters, more and more like fighters, that they get something honestly, every level.
I think rangers just base should have a animal companion. It should just be a base thing for the ranger.
No, because the ranger is like Aragorn, and Aragorn didn't have.
See, if you do it with the base, where if say Find Familiar were a standard takeable ranger spell, that would solve that. Where they have an animal companion, but they're not a battle companion unless the Beastmaster would then.
Yeah. I'd be down for that.
Upgrade it.
I'd be down for that version, but like what you're saying, maybe that's what you were trying to go for. But I'd be down.
Basically, yeah, they start with a familiar, but it's not necessarily a battle familiar until you take that Beastmaster subclass.
Yeah, and then if you take the Beastmaster, you can have a lion or a bear, or
No,
some kind of big thing.
Yeah.
But a ranger should have a hawk or a squirrel or some kind of animal that's
or a monkey.
Monkey, yeah.
Can I have a monkey?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, see, I'm down with
Find
that.
Familiar.
Find monkey.
You'll just have to take a magic initiate now to do it because it's not a
You ever see those commercials with the trunk monkey? You ever see those? That's the only thing I can imagine. I'm like, hey man, look at me, look at me over here. And then all of a sudden the trunk monkey comes in, it's, get a monkey, and hits him over the head with a wrench. I told you I could distract that guard. Come on, that was funny. I hate both of you.
Now I've got a random question popping in my head. Is Squirrel Girl a ranger or a Circle of the Shepherd druid?
Circle of the Shepherd druid. And when you summon that many of them, no.
Yeah, but she's got the fighting abilities of the ranger. She can
Squirrel Girls
by herself. She can
Girl
fight
should
down
honestly
Wolverine.
never existed because her power is luck.
Yeah.
Any superpower that's luck.
So Domino shouldn't exist?
Dominoes only affects, like, she can affect probability fields. That's hers. Like, Squirrel Girls is just pure luck. Like, a hero that can beat everybody, like One Punch Man is probably the best hero that you can ever say is designed to beat everybody, because he's, as much as he tries to do the right thing, everything's still bad. A lot of bad stuff happens to him. He goes out there and he tries. All right, versus you have Squirrel Girl who's just like, yeah, I beat Thanos, and you're like, okay, great. Now beating Thanos is no longer a great feat if some girl who's lucky just beats it. That's just my argument. So we're getting too far off.
Yeah, when you get to silly comics mixing in with serious comics, sometimes the line gets kind of wonky.
So that's but I guess that does kind of like play into it, because when you think about it, you have no, it doesn't play into it. It's just an off-topic conversation. Like I was just like, let's see if I can tie this back, and I can't.
But back to the ranger though, because Find Familiar is not on the primal spell list.
Just dumb.
So rangers can't get the Find Familiar spell as a.
So make it a class feat.
Yeah.
And don't call it like Summon Animal Companion. Like that's what it should be, and then it could be a primal spell. I guess it's a good thing that that it's not on the primal list. Because
why would you not have druids and rangers able?
It's probably going to be part of their class feature, something that they have like animal companionship or something like that. Like that's. To me,
I mean, they've got spells, animal friendship, and blah blah blah, but they're not the Find Familiar type.
I think that when you do animal, I think as a druid you should already have like not expert, like the skill proficiency should automatically be like a proficiency in animal with animals and stuff like that. That's something I want to see them too, is like update the skill list, but that's a skill that I think that they should kind of like be experts in, versus. Like I said, summon
theoretically,
the spell
from the way this sounds like, only rangers, druids, and rogues will have expertise.
Right. What I'm saying is they should be able to be like double lucky with it. I think that there needs to be a spell called Summon Animal Companion that falls only for the ranger and the druid.
When you think about great D&D rangers, you've got Minsk and you've got Dritz. They both have animal companions.
Yeah, but you're thinking of the ranger built off the modern day versus the ranger that was originally built. It was supposed to be Aragorn. Gary Gygax designed the ranger to be after Aragorn, and Aragorn didn't have an animal companion.
It doesn't matter. Minsk has had Boo since the very beginning, since he was the original fighter.
I'm not
ranger.
arguing against you,
but those were originally second edition rangers.
Yeah.
The one that Gary Gygax designed the Ranger to be after Aragorn.
Yeah, and there was the Beastmaster subtype, which would get an animal companion. Which
This goes back to me wanting just a summoner class.
I don't think. Well, let's play Pathfinder. Pathfinder's got a summoner class, but that's
there is the type of wizard that the School of Summoning.
Yep.
Wizard is technically they're a crappy summoner, but
yeah, you gotta the summoning demons and summoning in D&D is kind of like
the druid
Bolgg.
is actually the best summoner.
Absolutely.
And I think a ranger that is more of a beast conjurer would be a great subclass.
No, I think that they're like summoning in D&D needs to be fixed. Because the fact that you can't, summoning demons should be a cool thing. But then you got to know the demon's name, and then you got to do all this, and then it can lose control. And you're like, it's an imp. I kick him and he dies.
Yeah, pets and companions beyond the familiars are not handled well in 5th edition.
No.
They've tried. Tasha's does get a little bit better with their templated style of beast, where it's like you can pick what the beast is, but it's going to follow this template, these rules. So it's a little bit better, but it's still not convenient.
Yeah.
And there's just things like, if you're going to summon 8 fairies who can cast polymorph with the summon woodland animals, versus, 1 8 CR, bear or whatever it is. Very different power range, and does the DM pick what you're summoning, or does the player pick? Well, the player is going to pick the 8 fairies because he's the one that's
I don't know.
Yeah.
See, that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
You know what this is? It's the end of the episode.
Oh no!
Oh no! All right, guys. I appreciate you guys listening to us. Make sure you find us at bolgandpc@gmail.com if you have email us if you have any questions. Facebook bolgandpc@gmail. Damn it! Well, you know what? Hold on. We're gonna do this again. I gotta stop. All right. Let me see. Take 2? Take 2.
Biggest edited episode ever.
Yeah, probably. All right, guys. You've been listening to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. This is the end of the episode. Find us at Chef Bolgg and Pirate Captain's Facebook page. Email us at bolgandpc@gmail.com if you have any questions. And as always, say goodbye, Bolgg.
Goodbye, Bolgg.
Say goodbye, Loke.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
We appreciate you listening to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loke the Bard, of course. Make sure you go find us on Facebook to see what old concoctions Bolgg is cooking up in the kitchen. And if you want your emails read, then email us at bolgandpc@gmail.com. And as always, happy adventures. Yarr!